Okay, we are live. Here we are again, another live on the couch with the beautiful Lisa LaMaitre. And she is the Managing Director of Therapy Masters, although I'm sure she'll tell us all the story about that shortly. And she's the fabulous creator of Canberra Wise Women. Canberra Wise Women is an amazing business, and we will get to chat to her more about that. She really is such, I met Lisa quite some time ago, so I'm very grateful to be on this journey with her. But for those of you that don't know me, I'm Sharon Schmidt, founding director of Intuitive Souls. My passion is empowering others through intuition, empathy, kindness, hugs and fun. And I do this across the globe by supporting and empowering others to connect with their inner knowingness and embrace the most important thing in your life. But today, Lisa is joining us, and it's so exciting because Lisa has I really admire Lisa. She really is a very beautiful soul that came into my life just the right time, as we know they always do. But she herself is a teacher, a writer, a massage and health expert. She's a business creative. She's an award-winning business owner, and she's been in business in Canberra for over 25 years. This lady knows her stuff, I can assure you, and I've been grateful to be on the other end of some of that, which I'm very, very honoured to actually have her sitting on the couch with me today. But during Lisa's time, she's faced numerous business challenges, and she sees the current pandemic as an opportunity to rest, recharge and reinvent, which I think is amazing. Lisa is the creator of Canberra Wise Women, as I mentioned, and she's a principal practitioner at Therapy Masters, which we will, as I said, we will go in because anyone that knows that beautiful business it's transforming in itself. But personally, Lisa expresses herself as a wordsmith, a photographer, a food lover, an inspirer, a wife, a wolf, and a wolf mama. And I'm telling you, she's got the most beautiful dogs that just are. I just love so much the way, to me, it always tells me the way you treat your animals certainly tells me the kind of person you are, because, you know, it really amazes me that some people can treat animals out there terribly, and I know, Lisa, they are your fur babies, and that's it. There is no here or anything else. That's just the way it is, and I love it because our fur babies are part of our family as well. So over to you. Let's hear a little bit about you. But look, as you and I were chatting before we came on here, we were talking about Therapy Masters. So let's get that out there for everybody that loves Therapy Masters and may not have heard about it, or may you're just hearing about it for the first time.
Morning, Sharon. It's lovely to be with you. I've got some lovely sunlight streaming into my new office at home, and I actually had to kick the fur children out of here because the baby likes to bark at things as they go up and down the street, and with more people being home, there's more things for her to bark at. So I didn't think people would appreciate having Freya barking on camera. So she looked at me very upset when I told her she needed to leave the sunshine the nice office floor. And she's down the hall with my husband in his office. Well, I can hear him. He's on a conference call.
Oh, okay, good.
So I started Therapy Masters in December 97, so nearly 23 years ago. It started as a home-based clinic when I lived out in Gungahlin. We'd recently married, we built our first home, and the fourth bedroom was designed to be a clinic room for me at home. I worked from home for 7 years, and I moved into the city almost 16 years ago. So in July 2004, I opened in Canberra City. And I've made the decision during the pandemic that it's actually time to downsize again. And I'm looking at bringing the business home, and I'm also looking at working around town, probably out of at least one other practice, maybe two other practices. So we'll see. And I'm also retraining at the moment. One of the areas that I've been quite interested in the last probably 10 years or so is PTSD and trauma, because it's something that I've been through personally. And that's really where I would like to move the practice to moving forward. My undergraduate degree before I did massage therapy was actually in neuroscience and psychology from ANU. So I'm looking at bringing all of those aspects together at the moment. And really with what we've experienced in Australia in the last, or really 5, almost 6 months now, with well, even longer if we look at some bushfires sort of started September last year.
That's right.
Yeah. 9 months. You know, the bushfires we've been through, the drought we've been through, and now the pandemic, people need support and understanding and tools, education around resilience and self-care. And it's really something that I feel quite strongly and passionate about. It's something that I've really tried to live the last 10 years, live by example, and that's what I want to share with other people. So that's where I'm at. I've started retraining to become a trauma therapist. So I've done 2 days of resource therapy training, and I've got more of that to go. And I'm also looking at doing EMDR training. So I've got a multitude of things going on like usual. So, but we're in the process of closing the city premises down at the moment. Yeah.
Wow, and that's a really big thing for you. And as you were telling me your story, all I could think of was it's like you've come full circle now with that.
It has, yeah. But now I live out of town. I live in a beautiful location. If I do have clients here at home, and I'm also down where I only see about 10 massage clients a week. I don't see 20 or 25 clients anymore. And if I kind of split them up over various locations, then, you know, I'm only going to have a handful of people come here to the house. But for anyone who's been in the Therapy Masters premises in the city, when we picked that space 16 years ago, we picked a space that didn't have any external windows because it was going to save me money on setting the business up, that I didn't have to pay for window furnishings or blinds or blockout or whatever, because obviously naked people don't really like to show themselves to the world. And so we picked a space that had no external windows. So we've really been in an internal space for 16 years, and coming home now, the room, it's not this room, it's another room in the house that will transform into a treatment room. It's actually, you can see the sky, you can see the trees. So it's going to be a very different feel coming here to home and having a treatment here, which I'm really looking forward to, plus developing these new ideas that I have into really a new type of treatment that I hope I can share with other people in the future.
How wonderful is that? And look, what a perfect place is your you know, I know I'm rural as well, so
yes.
You know, we're rural residential, whatever you like to call it, but we are very lucky, and we've been extremely lucky during COVID-19 to be able to have our space.
Very much.
You know, whereas a lot of people have been caught inside. But what an amazing place. And I think you'll be quite surprised, because I must admit, at first, when I had with my studio out here, I was a little bit worried about distance for people, but people, it doesn't bother them. I always say to them when they're leaving, you know, make sure you stop and enjoy the drive, like appreciate the space on your way out. And I think your people will be so grateful to come out and look at the trees and just have that solace out there in your beautiful new studio. And it'll be new, so the energy will be fabulous as well.
Yeah.
In saying that, your old studio, I loved your old studio. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it did have a nice feel in the city. We when we fitted it out originally 16 years ago, one of our good friends at the time, she'd recently done a feng shui course, and as part of us deciding where the rooms and things would be, she actually feng shuied the premises for us. So the premises have always had, you know, it was designed with energetics in mind from the very, very beginning. And I think that's one of the reasons why the space has been so successful in there. And I think obviously whoever looks to take the space after me, one, will get an amazing landlord in Peter Barclay. If anyone's looking for space, I cannot recommend Peter highly enough. I've actually been thinking about leaving the building for about 3 years, and Peter's really been one of the reasons why I've stayed so long, because he's such a beautiful, caring and supportive person. There needs to be more Peters in the world. But obviously those energetics will, you know, roll into whoever takes the space after me as well. Yeah.
And isn't that great, being in business and being able to have those extra partners, you know, those external partners to support you that way.
Yeah. In our experiences, because we've had another business that closed 10 years ago where we had commercial premises for that as well. And I say I've had the two extremes. I've had, I think, the worst landlord in Canberra and the best landlord in Canberra, and always gravitate to the good ones. Stay away from the bad ones.
No, absolutely not. And it's and it just makes the whole experience, as you said, you've been, you know, thinking about this for 3 years, and it's taken you that long because of such a wonderful person in your life, which is great.
Yeah.
Which really is, that's who you are, because you do tend to gravitate to great people. You are, as far as I'm concerned, you're a soul nurturer. That's how I met you. I was connected through other beautiful souls. I can't remember if it was Danielle Shine or Sheena Island or Lisa Portland. I can't remember which one it was. All of those beautiful ladies.
It was Sheena and Lisa. They came out to do a story on you when you first opened.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah, and then Sheena told me about you, and then we connected, and then later on we realised that we both knew Danielle as well, because Danielle's been one of our Canberra Wise women.
Ah, yes, beautiful Danielle. I've got another Danielle, but Danielle is just a beautiful light as well. The whole three of those ladies, and we are having Sheena on the couch on Thursday, and Lisa Portland's coming up in June, so that's a bit exciting as well. Yeah. So tell us, Lisa, a bit about, you've told us about Therapy Masters. What about Canberra Wise Women? What are you doing in that space?
Well, I haven't been doing much for a little while, to be honest. Okay. I started teaching at CIT about 2 years ago, and teaching something I've been really passionate about. I've done a lot of training before, and I have taught previously. And I was teaching as part of the massage course at CIT. And so that took up a lot of my time, but that, it's a really great skill to have, and I've really enjoyed my time working at CIT. Not that I don't have a class at the moment, but I'm casual, so I can kind of get a call up at any time if they're short-staffed or they need somebody. But obviously with what's been happening with the pandemic, everything's online. So at the moment, I'm not currently teaching. I don't have a class, but that's okay. I've really enjoyed my time. But that kind of took my focus away and started me thinking about, well, where do I want to go in the future, and what do I really enjoy doing? Because I really do enjoy sharing information to more than one person. Like, I think that ability to scale up is really important in business, to have a scalability to what you're offering, and teaching obviously gives that, or instructing gives that ability. Now, where were we going? Canberra Wise Women. So we
were just talking about Canberra Wise Women, but I have to say, and sorry to interrupt, but you are very much a giver when it comes to that. And I found that when I met with you, you were very generous, and it's just been wonderful to watch you even grow into a totally different direction from when I first met you as well.
Thank you. But Canberra Wise Women started in 2015. It started because we had really horrible things happen to us. So the business with a really horrible landlord, we closed it down in 2010 because it was targeted for crime, and we had 18 exits.
Oh dear, what's going on here? We've got lots of don't you love technology? Technology and me, Lisa. I don't even know why I do these sometimes, because technology and me. Oh well.
Good. Am I back?
The joy of live.
Am I there? Am I here?
You're there. Yep.
So we closed the business down in 2010 because it was targeted for crime. We had 18 incidents requiring ACT policing in about 3.5 years. And when I went to ACT Victim Support for a little bit of help, feeling overwhelmed and that I wasn't coping, and not actually realising at the time that I had PTSD, to find out that at the time we were the people that had experienced the most amount of crime in the shortest amount of time that ACT Victim Support had ever dealt with. And normally I went in with the expectation that I might get 2 to 3 hours of counselling out of them, and they actually gave me 20. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we'd experienced. And so I went on to have counselling for about 18 months. So that took me through until August of 2012. And that's when the puppies came home. That's when Jet and his original sister, Mojo, came home.
Yep.
And then about 12 months after that, my sister died suddenly. So within a reasonably in a 3-year period, we had quite a lot of stuff go on. We had to close down a business. That business actually had over a $400,000 loss in it, like a significant amount of money. I went through like counselling and support for PTSD. We moved house. I kind of reinvigorated Therapy Masters at that time, and we did a refurbishment, and I grew the team, and that's when the team got the biggest that it was over the time we've been in the city. I had about 11 people on the team there. And then my sister died suddenly. So kind of when you just sort of feel like you're back on top and you're starting to cope with things, you have this really big hit again, and this big unexpected, it was sudden, it wasn't expected. My sister was 10 years older than me. She was only 52. And to receive that phone call in the early hours of a Saturday morning was devastating, as you can imagine. And I just didn't want, I got like dealing with her death, and her death was quite complicated, and there was an investigation, and that matter actually wasn't settled until, I actually have to think about it. I think it was 2018. It was nearly 5 years after she died. Like, it was a really long period of time where you're just held up in this investigative process that you have no control over because of the complexity of how she died. She died when she was in hospital. And anyway, so I didn't want to be left in that state. I didn't want to be left with that horrible feeling. And the things that had made me feel better were being connected, hanging out with like-minded people, and being positive and being inspired by the world around me, whether that was an amazing story of survival or someone's innovative business idea, or, you know, a really lovely piece of music, whatever it was. And so that's what Canberra Wise Women was born out of. It was born out of, I want to share these positive things with others, that like the flip side of, you know, the positive side of resilience really is what how Canberra Wise Women started. And I don't actually know where I came up with the idea for the format. It just kind of popped into my head, which was that we would do live interviews on stage, and we'd interview 3 people. I'd pick a theme. I'd find 3 people to be interviewed around that theme. I call myself the director and the producer of Canberra Wise Women, so I pull them together and I pay for them and I fund them. And they are ticketed normally, because it's to try and obviously offset the costs of, because it's not, anyone who's done events knows that it's not cheap to put an event on.
Absolutely not.
In Canberra. I've been very lucky. I've had some great support in Canberra from various venues and businesses, so that's been fabulous. But going out there cold, it is quite expensive.
Absolutely.
And I found someone else to do the interviewing for me. So that's a lady called Emma Gray. I don't know who is aware of Emma.
Yep.
Emma's an author and a business coach in her own right, and a lot of people know her because she's a regular columnist for her Canberra, and one of her businesses is Work-Life Bliss. So she's all about that balance. So to date, we've interviewed 58 Canberrans at Canberra Wise Women. We've interviewed 49 women, one person, I never remember the word properly when I want it, where someone considers themselves without a gender. What's the proper word?
Intersex?
No, not intersex. Non-binary, is that it? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I think it's non-binary. One person who's non-binary and 8 gentlemen. So we do interview men as well. Like, we predominantly interview women, but we also interview men. So we've had probably one of the most famous, well, we've had Chef Danielle Shine. So Danielle's an internationally recognised whole food chef who's, when she's not in Canberra, she also lives in London and New York.
Yes, she does.
Danielle is. We've had Catherine McGregor, who's obviously she was the highest ranking transgendered military officer anywhere in the world. So we had Catherine on our stage. We've had Frances Owusu from Culture Break. We've had Nip from GGS Flowers. I'm trying to think. We've had Hannah from Country to Canberra. So we have a really diverse group of people. So I think our youngest guest was probably 20, and our oldest guest was in their 60s. So yeah.
Wow.
So that's the kind of the scope. We've had events across Canberra. We've in like various locations. We've done a number of joint events. We've done a joint event with the Australian Computer Society. We've done a joint event with Country to Canberra, with the Australian Institute of Management. So it's been quite diverse. So in the first 2 years, I did 24 events, I think it was, in 2 years, which is a little bit nutty. And then I've only done 4 events in the last few years, because I've had other things. I've been teaching. I had some health stuff. We had another loss in our family, which was another really big period of grief for us and grieving. So it's life, and that's what happens. So me being able to come home and not have the commercial premises to, constantly be concerned about the money side of that, and making sure you're making enough money to pay for all those extra costs and expenses of having a large premises, will help me work out what I want to do with Canberra Wise Women, because I really want to integrate and bring it all back together. Because at the moment I've got multiple channels. I've got 2 Instagram pages and 2 Facebook pages, and less.
That takes a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of I've sort of you know, ease back a little. But just even doing this, even this is a bit of a free one just to keep people connected. It was a COVID-19 thing that I decided to do.
Yeah.
But again, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of continuous engagement of other people. And we've been getting some great reviews on, you know, just chatting to people. People are loving it. But it is, you're exactly right. And when you're doing that on a bigger scale, mine's on a very small scale compared to what you're doing. And I found it very challenging at times. There's times where even over the weekend now, I've started to go, right, weekends, if I'm not running workshops, I'm not booking people in. I'm outside. The weather's fabulous. It's stupid not to be. And I need to do that for me. And we really have to take care of ourselves. As you said, you've been through a lot, more than even some people could imagine. Well, no, but seriously. And, you know, you've come out the other side, this beautiful shining button that you always are. You're just an amazing, beautiful empath. And anyone that ever has the luxury like I have to be around Lisa, her energy is just so amazing, and she just is a beautiful soul. But yeah, that's a lot to go through for one person. And at times, whether you like it or not, it's often on your own because they're your emotions.
Yeah. So, you know, we've been asked before, like, how did my husband and I, we've been married for 23 years, and we've been asked before at a Canberra Wise Women event. I didn't want to be interviewed because for me, Canberra Wise Women is bigger than me. It's not about me, it's about everybody else. But I had enough people kind of, you know, encourage me, control me, voluntold me that I needed to be interviewed. So I was interviewed at our very first, like the anniversary of our first year of Canberra Wise Women. It was actually the same event that Danielle was interviewed at. And and someone actually from the audience asked, because we open each guest interview up to the audience, and someone asked us, how did Dave and I manage to make it through the business stuff and the crime stuff? And his answer, because he was there out of the audience, was that we're too stubborn not to not to push through and not to do it. And then what we've been through now, like in another 10 years time, with moving house and experiencing infertility, so we haven't been able to have children, and so the fur babies, the Wolfie children, are even more important to us, and losing one of our Jet's sister, Mojo, nearly 3 years ago. Like, for us, that was losing a baby. So absolutely, again, it brings you closer together, because, you know, there's only one other person in the world who's had the most like experiences that I've had. So, you know, it bonds us and brings us closer together, which is a lovely thing. Although he's not happy because I'm bringing home the really pretty furniture from the clinic, and he's like, oh, this needs to be in our bedroom. And I've got like a really pretty single chair that I'm currently sitting on, and there's a settee that goes with it. And I'm like, we don't need both a chair and a settee. And he's like, no, I want both. And so this morning I wheeled this back upstairs to my new office, but the thing's got squeaky wheels and gave me away.
So you were busted.
So yeah, but as you can tell, we get on really well, so that's important. So
yeah, well, it is.
Murdered each other working from home together for 8 weeks either.
And it's interesting, isn't it? You know, because so many people are doing this. I wonder how many people are actually spending this much time together that they have never ever done before, and that includes whole families. You know, whatever your family is, because families come in all shapes and sizes.
They do.
And you know, so I mean, the dogs. I was only thinking about this the other day. How are all our pets going to cope when people are back at work? You know, they've had us home. And, you know, where we're out, I mean, I work from home anyway, so for me, it's not a big deal. And even when I do contracts, which is rare these days, but I still manage to work from home at least 1 or 2 days a week. But, you know, the dogs, my 2 dogs would not cope if I wasn't here all the time.
Well, the dogs had that yesterday, because I went in. Dave actually had a real meeting in the real world where he wore a suit again. And he had a meeting from lunchtime in the city through the afternoon, and I went in because I had a dental checkup, and then I stayed in the city packing, and so we didn't get home last night till about 5:30, and it was like, you're home, Mum. What have you been doing? Oh, and you bought dinner. I really like you now.
Because as we know, for them, it's like, you know, those few hours that we're away, that's like a week.
Yeah.
What is it? Someone was telling me, well, because when you look at their dog years, you can imagine that's just shattering for them to not have us. And so there's going to be a lot of very sorry and sad puppies and cats and other about when everybody starts to move back into the real world, as we call it. But I love the updressing as well, you know. Today I don't have my pajama pants on, but I have been known to do that, to have my pajama pants on. And it's great because no one even knows. I think it's like this really nice little secret, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I've got my pajama pants on.
I haven't done that. I put makeup on, and I have, I did another webinar chat the other week, and I wasn't as well dressed, but I was like, oh, you can only see this much of me, so it's okay. It was later in the afternoon. It was 4:30 on a Friday. But
it's great, isn't it?
I did makeup, and I've done makeup this morning.
Well, you look beautiful. You always look beautiful. As I said, every time I've connected with you, the energy from you, with what you've been through, and I think probably that's made you such a compassionate person as well, is because...
Yeah, a lot of it is like my... like the family that I grew up with, like, you know, they're great and they're very loving and they're very caring, but they're also very Germanic. So you kind of, you know, you don't express things. You kind of just put it in a box and, you know, you might not deal with that ever, kind of thing. And so that's kind of how I was taught in the primary school years, that you kind of like, you know, you don't be overly empathetic and you don't be overly sensitive. And you know, my mum's always said, like my cousin who was, she passed a few years ago and she was beautiful, but my mum always called her soft growing up. Oh, she's so soft, she's soft, she's soft. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've actually now corrected mum. I said, she's not soft, mum, she's sensitive. And they're different, you know. We see soft as such a negative thing to have, but sensitive is a skill, and it's empathetic and it's intuition, and there's power in that word, which soft doesn't have. And realistically, what we went through, particularly with the video store and stuff, that's the business that we had that was targeted for crime, it really put me back down to that much younger energy where I'm allowed to be sensitive. Being intuitive when someone's going to come and rob you is actually a really healthy skill to have, to know when something is not right in your world, and to be able to protect yourself. And to have that level of compassion and empathy, it just really, and having the dogs as well, because they've been also part of our healing journey from going through PTSD, as you know, it just opens you up again. And you know, you can't go back. I wrote as part of my counselling and work with a psychologist. I write, as you know, I've always written, but I was doing poetry and stuff at the time. And one of the one of the poems I wrote was called To the Rim, and about that distortion that happens and you can't go back to how you were before. And I think that's when that people have that grief and disappointment, when we keep on going, but that's how it was, that's how I want it to be.
Yes.
But there's been this twist and this flip, and it's not like that anymore, and we have to accept this. And when we accept this, we can then move on. But for however long we can't accept this twist, and this change, we get stuck in that energy. And that's where so many people are at the moment. Things are twisted for them and distorted. More than likely, they're never going to go back to how they are. And we need to heal and recognize this. And yeah, for most people, this is a very new thing. For me, like, people have been going, oh, this is so hard. And I'm like, I get to stay home in a beautiful location with my fur children and my husband, and eat healthy and cook and garden, and, you know, have a little bit more flexibility in my day, compared to 10 years ago when I used to go to work dressed in case somebody came in with a knife to rob me. And you'd be constantly on the lookout. It just, for me, and I get for other people, this is really difficult, but compared to what we've been through, this has been a break. I haven't had, I was saying to someone yesterday, the last time I had this much time off, I would have been 15 because I started working when I was 16. I worked all my holidays, all my school holidays, all my uni holidays. And then I've gone into business and I've had like 2 weeks off. So the last time I had more than 2 weeks off, I would have been 15.
Isn't, oh my God, Lisa. Wow.
So for me, this has been really refreshing.
I was going to say, this is really the universe telling, it's putting the brakes on you big time, isn't it?
Yeah. But
It's saying, well, you know, you've been a bugger since you were 15, so we're going to make you stop now. We've tried all these other things, but it's not working. So now the world around you is stopping as well. So it's your fault. No, I'm just joking.
That's all right. If the universe can come and send someone to unpack all the boxes, that'd be really good.
I wonder if you'll unpack them all straight away. Do you think you'll do that?
No. Well, some of it, I'm looking here to my right. I've got 8, like the filing cabinet from work is here. It's 8 archive boxes. I need to buy a new filing cabinet as part of the problem, because the filing cabinets at the clinic were built in, so I can't bring them with me. You know, we had one thing break coming home yesterday, which was a bookcase, so Dave needs to fix it, and then I can start to slot things in. But we bought shelves and things home yesterday, so there's stuff everywhere, because the things that they need to go into or on, and like the shelves behind me, I'm starting to unpack. So I brought home like awards and photographs and stuff from work, so I can have a bit of a, when I don't feel great, I can come and stare at a wall and go, okay, you can do this, put your big girl pants on and get all the documents.
Yes, what a great idea. So on awards, tell us about your awards, because I know that you have not only had awards yourself, but you also have helped a lot of people along their journeys for being at least nominated for awards and or receiving them.
Yeah, so for a long time, like I've been in business. This year I started Therapy Masters in 97. And Dave actually started our first business while we were still at university. So he started it in 92, I think, and we started dating in 93. So we've had businesses. He technically started his first business when he was 12 on selling computer parts out of a catalogue in the country town he grew up in. So he's very
Dave.
Yeah, he's very entrepreneurial, is Dave. But, we had our first business while we were still at uni, so in the early 90s. And for a really long time, I kind of just went, well, you're in business, you just do your work, you do the best you can, you be the best that you can be at it, and that's it. You don't really do anything. And after we closed the video store, because that was part of a franchise, so we'd had an IT company, so Dave's in IT, so we've had an IT company, and I've done his admin and bookwork and stuff for that. And then we've had my massage business, which has gone from home to the business premises, and then we had a franchise, a video store. And having the franchise really opened me up, made me realize that even though at the time I'd probably been in business for about 15 years, there was still lots that I didn't know. There were big gaps in my knowledge base, and we all gravitate to the things that we like to do and the things that we're good at, and the things that we don't like to do or we feel that we're not particularly good at, we kind of ignore. But then they become really big gaps in our knowledge base. Yeah, I can see Sharon's face while they say that. And it made me realize that there were gaps and things that I needed to get better at. And I started to go networking. So I've really been more focused on networking probably since realistically it was I started in 2011 when we moved here, and then I had a gap when my sister died, and then I got back into it properly probably in 2014, because in 2013 my mum also went through cancer. Jet, her child had to have his front legs reconstructed. He was born with his elbow joints hadn't formed properly, so Jet's actually had his front legs reconstructed. He has metal rods. He's got German design metal rods and screws in both of his front legs.
He's worth a fortune.
He is
literally.
He is, but he's a beautiful boy. He's just gorgeous.
Well, as we know, we do it for our family. Why would we not do it for our pets?
Exactly. So, 2013 was a really big year. Anyway, getting into networking and things, and that's when I started to see other people in networking in particular who were really good at selling what they were doing, but when you actually looked at their credentials, there was this disconnect. So they were really great about saying how wonderful they were, but when you actually looked at their skill base and where they'd studied or trained or how long they'd been in the industry for, they were really new or their qualifications were pretty average. And I started to feel jealous and envious, going, well, what is it? Why are they getting that attention that I'm not getting? And what they were doing was they were getting PR, they were getting media, and they were entering awards. And instead of going, well, and feeling in that horrible feeling of jealousy and envy and stuff, which I don't like to be in.
No.
I was like, okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. I've got more experience, more qualifications, more training. So I just need to feel like just to step up and, as I say, put those big girl pants on and put yourself out there. So I started entering awards probably in 2012, I think it was, and I was a finalist. That was a Canberra Business Point Award that doesn't exist anymore, so it was for local Canberra businesses. And then I've consistently entered awards now probably for the last 4 years or so. So I've been a finalist a number of times. So Women with Altitude is an amazing group. It's run by a lady called Andrea. They originally started in the Blue Mountains and sort of the Penrith area up in Sydney. And slowly but surely, Andrea has plans to take over Australia. Very good way.
Good on her.
But she's just a beautiful person. There's no competition with Andrea. It's all about a sisterhood originally, because Women with Altitude originally was just for women. But since then, she's also started a men's group. I think it's Men of, I can't remember. It's a twist on the Women with Altitude. And she runs an annual awards. They've got about 15 categories. It's a really big event up in Sydney. And she's just the most generous person. And there's a monthly Women with Altitude event here in Canberra now. It's been going probably for about 18 months or so, maybe a little bit longer. And Beck McFarlane, if anyone knows Beck, she's one of the ladies who oversees the Canberra group. But they meet Friday morning. Well, normally they'd meet Friday mornings in person once a month at Rodney's at Pielago, but they've gone to an online event. They had it last Friday, but I had an appointment that I was at, so I couldn't go, but it was online last week. But Women with Altitude, their awards are amazing. I've entered those consistently probably for the last 3 or 4 years, and I've entered a few others as well. But the 3 awards I've picked up are in 2018, I was the Strategic Connector of the Year with Women with Altitude. So I won that. That was an inaugural category, the first year they run it, and I won that in 2018, which was amazing and lovely.
Yes.
And then last year, beginning of last year, I lose track of time, I picked up 2 awards in the Australian, I can't remember, Enterprise Awards, I think they are, which they're really interesting awards, because they basically send you an email and say that you've been shortlisted as a finalist, and it's just this, and it's a legit award. I've got a friend in Sydney who her actual job, her business is to write award applications for people. And I contacted her and she confirmed that they were legit, and I actually picked up 2 awards with them. So I won Best Tailored Massage Therapist in Canberra.
Wow.
And I also won the Health Innovator of the Year, which is to do with the business competitions I've entered the last couple of years that I've won. So, yeah.
Well done. I didn't realise you had quite so many. So that's
yes. That was a really long way to answer awards, wasn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I knew you had awards, but I wasn't aware of how many. So that just goes to show the degree of your passion as well, because obviously you've got to have that passion, haven't you, to be able to put yourself out there.
Yeah, I think everybody, I think as women in particular, and Australian women in particular, we really deflect. Like, someone pays us a compliment, go, "Oh, Sharon, I love your earrings." "Oh, these old things, I picked them up for like $5 at Big W." Like, we don't actually go, "Oh, thank you. Like, yeah, I feel like a goddess in them. Thank you. You're making me feel great." We really deflect. And it's the same when we come to business and awards and things. Like, one of my really good friends does amazing things and she won't enter awards as much as I cajole her or encourage her or try and bully her in a positive manner.
I like that laugh a little bit.
And own her awesome. She won't do it because she doubts herself. And it comes back to this doubt that, and we need to not do that. And the best analogy I have, if you are shortlisted in an award or you're interviewed or something like that, it's kind of like you've gone to the bathroom and you're wearing a dress or a skirt and you don't realize that you've tucked your dress or your skirt into your undies, and you're kind of flashing a bit of undie and you're flashing your whole leg. Like you feel a little bit embarrassed and a little bit awkward, but you realize it's there and you pull it down quite quickly, and only a couple of people have seen it. But that's the feeling it feels like when you put yourself out there to be interviewed or into a competition or an awards process. And realistically, even if you don't win, just being a finalist feels as wonderful as winning does.
I was going to say, because is that one of our problems as well, the fear of failure?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. But I think I think the first thing is that fear of comparison, and that like, well,
judgment.
They've been in business longer than what I have, or their business is bigger than mine, or they've got better qualifications than I do, or whatever. When often one of the best things that comes out of the awards process is you get to see your business in a different perspective, and you get to take that away with you, and you kind of feel like you're giving yourself a pat on the back going, oh yeah, actually I've been in business for 5 years or 2 years or whatever it is, and I've actually achieved stuff. I've done a really good job here. Look at these areas that I've grown in, and these skills that I've developed, and these people that I've helped. And that makes you feel good even before you find out if you make it to a finalist category or not.
Yes, it's I think that's really important, isn't it? Reflecting on what your business is doing for others, but also for yourself. You've obviously chosen to go into business. I mean, I certainly did. I was, I say corporate world, public service, for a long, for over 20 years. Previous to that, I was in private enterprise, but I wanted to do my own thing, and that's why I'm here. And so I had the courage to do that. I guess then taking that next step is more courage that you need to get, isn't it?
Yeah, and even me, like downsizing and coming home, there's still, and I was talking to someone yesterday who I'll end up working through with the trauma therapy stuff, and I've been doing work for her the last actually I've been working for her for a number of months, but for the last 8 weeks I've been doing marketing and content writing for her as well, because I do that too. But
yes, you're a woman of many hats, Lisa.
I am. I actually did a speech, I did a presentation last year that started with that line, I am the wearer of many hats. But talking to Kerry yesterday about the therapy work that I will do, and like starting to see clients, because one of the reasons I want to do one of the other reasons I want to do the counselling is because I can do it this way, I can do it remotely, I can do it as a telehealth appointment. And I want to have that skill set. So if something like this happens again, or I decide that I'm really happy here and I don't want to go out anymore, I can still make money, and it opens more avenues up for me business wise. And I want to have that skill. And I was talking to Kerry about that yesterday. But doing that, it still fills me with apprehension, still makes me uncomfortable that I've got to step into a new role and learn a new skill. And it's the same when I started at CIT, like having to learn the platform that we put all the lectures up on, and, doing PowerPoint presentations every week. And that was a skill. Those are separate skills, besides the fact I've got to stand in front of a group of people and share my experience and ideas with them.
Absolutely. I mean, I love Zoom. I mean, I love, because most of my clients, my client base in Canberra is way smaller than so Darwin, I've got a great amount of clients. In Queensland, I've got a great amount of clients, and out west. Yeah. So for me, this has been a really normal part of my life.
Yeah.
And my husband says to me the other day, he goes, do you actually really go anywhere much anymore?
Take the bin out?
Need to do that, because we don't have a rubbish collection service here. By the time we give all our scraps to the chooks and we recycle, and then we have a small bag of rubbish once a week.
No, I was joking, because the pandemic, how people have been getting dressed up with their bins out in suburbia. Yeah.
True, yeah. But no, and I don't know about you, but I'm finding excuses continuously to not have to go into town.
Yeah, I usually, I've been going in, I've probably been going shopping or whatever probably twice a week on average, but it's usually like I go to Dave, what else do you need while I'm out? And so unfortunately, I've had to spend a lot of time in the plumbing aisle at Bunnings because we've been installing water tanks. And I'm like, please no more. I don't need to go back into the plumbing aisle at Bunnings. That gives you nightmares, people. If you haven't been, please don't.
But it'll be well worth it when it rains and you can catch all that beautiful water.
Yes, they're all installed, and we're meant to have rain tomorrow and Thursday, so fingers crossed.
Oh, great.
Yeah, fingers crossed for some rain and some filling of tanks. So yeah.
And that'll be the first fill for those tanks, will it?
Yeah, it will be, because unfortunately the lovely rain we got the other weekend, where it rained that Saturday, like not last weekend, the weekend before.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
The tanks were here, but they neglected to send the seals up. And then they sent them through some very quality courier company, and it took 8 days for the seals to come up from Melbourne.
Oh, no.
No.
You could have driven down and got them yourself.
Yes. So anyway, they did arrive and they are installed, and because we put in underground tanks, and they're all backfilled and
very exciting, isn't it? Isn't it exciting that we can get excited about water?
Yeah, really. Yeah. Because where we live, we're lucky enough that we're still on town water, so we're still actually on. But we don't. Our neighbours have bores and pools, and we don't have either. And some of our neighbours, the estate we live in has 4 dams. So some people are also located near the dam, and we're not. I mean, the closest dam to us is across the road behind our neighbour's house. And with the fires, obviously, over summer, the Talaganda fire, when it started, was 20 kilometres to our east, and then moved further east, and obviously almost impacted Braidwood. But if it had come in the opposite direction, it would have impacted us. 20 k's to us, we would have been about 2 k's from our house. And then the Pialigo fire was 7 k's from our house. So it really made us, I mean, we've lived here for 9 years, and we've known that we needed to get some static water, but we just hadn't got around to it. And now that's been our priority, and we're in, and that's done. And Dave's done all of the hard yards and digging.
Good on him.
And yes, he's a very talented man. I'm very lucky to have him.
It makes it easier, doesn't it? My hubby's the same. So, and I guess being out when you're on a bit of land, you don't have a choice. You need to make sure that you use your internal resources, because getting people out here is just as challenging as not. So
yeah. We finally got a plumber. So David run bits. He does all the labouring work, and then he gets the people in to do the final stuff. So
yeah, Rob does the same. So I get that.
Yeah. Done that. So yeah, my father-in-law was an electrician when he was working. So yeah. So
oh, great, that's easier.
So Dave. Well, no, he lives in Victoria, so not really. But I mean, Dave was taught to be practical from 10-year-old. Yes.
Which well, my husband was the same, because he was off the land, so I'm very lucky with that. He's pretty handy with everything, because I'm a bit of a wrecker of things. He's very mechanically, he's a mechanic by trade as well, so thankfully, because I pretty much any object that he brings in here that's drivable, I usually destroy. So
God.
I know. I had the tractor. I blew up the clutch in the tractor, but I had it on 2 wheels a few times. I know he'd much prefer that I stay away from that sort of stuff.
No, well, Dave races cars as his hobby, so car mechanics and engineering and all of that kind of stuff, tuning, that's all of his hobby.
Yeah, it's in his glory, which is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Comfortable at all, Lisa, to talk anything about your PTSD, just for anyone out there that may be struggling with corona, the fires that we had, and as we know, the hail for people around the Canberra area?
Yeah. Well, I forgot about the hail doesn't even register for me, because when we went through the experiences we had with PTSD really kind of rewired everything for me. So my tolerance level is much higher than other people. So Dave actually lost his car in the hailstorm. We were both in the city that day. Some days we share a car, because we have been both working in the city, and that day our days had different timings, so we both drove. He parked down behind QT, on
Oh,
sea
no.
level, and I
Yep.
was parked on the roof of the Canberra Centre because that's my business is on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So as the crow flies, I think our cars would have been less than a kilometre apart, and his car was written off.
Oh.
Like the only things that weren't smashed on his car were the side mirrors and the side windows. He lost his back window was completely through, and
And so I'm guessing it was full of water as well.
Yeah, and water, but anyway, so that's fine. See, I don't even think about that because it just doesn't.
So the bonus is, I have to say, from all of that horribleness, did he get a nice new car?
He did. He picked up a newer. He had a little BMW, so he picked up a newer model of it, secondhand for about half its normal, like original price. And it had one owner who told the dealership when he returned it to buy the newer model that had never been out in the rain, and we would believe him. It was pristine. It still had a new car smell, even though it was 4 years old, and had only 20,000 Ks on it. So
what? Oh, that's fabulous.
So we actually bought it before we got the payout and things because he didn't want us to miss out on it. Kind of.
Absolutely.
So so he's very happy, and so we got paid out in his other car. But I think the things that people kind of overlook is we start to feel crappy. We start to feel overwhelmed and stressed and things, and we let the basic things slide. So the things that we, have really helped us were eating well. It's the simple things, really. Being hydrated, not doing a lot of, substances, whether that's alcohol or smoking or caffeine and things, and having a set sleep cycle. So we go to bed about the same time every night, 9:30, 10 o'clock. We get up about 6 every morning. We have been sleeping in a little bit more. This time of year, we tend to anyway. Like you, we don't have street lights. We have black dogs. We normally walk first thing of the morning, but it's a bit hard to walk in the dark with black dogs.
Yeah.
So this morning we walked about 7.
Oh, lovely. Perfect time of the day.
I don't know. Did you have fog this morning?
We did, and we've had fog every day. We've had a couple of frosts in there as well. But it feels like it's darker of a morning.
Well, it is because we're coming into winter solstice.
Yeah, because I said to Rob, I went, he normally gets up around 5:30, and then I wave him off about 6:30. But I said, I'm sure it's bloody darker at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think it's just because we're coming into solstice, but I've felt the same thing too. Even yesterday when I came out of the clinic in the city about 4:30 to pack more things into the cars, it was dark then.
Well, my dogs won't even go out at the moment. They're like, when Rob gets up to go, they're like, no, we're not going out yet. It's a bit cold out there.
No, well, Freya wakes up early and because the dogs sleep they have their own beds, but they sleep in our room. And she wakes up and she's bored. So she opens the curtain just enough and she lays with her head, and then she can see a kangaroo in the yard and she barks at 2 in the morning. It's really good for you. It's great. But I think that dealing with PTSD and stuff, it was really about, one, realizing that I needed help and reaching out and getting help. So that was really, really good. And I worked with an excellent psychologist for 18 months. So I had weekly treatments for, I can't remember how long, 6 months, 9 months. And then we went out to, frequency kind of moved out further. I did have an extension with the GP, and I got an extra 10 hours in a mental health treatment plan, and I ended up having 29 hours of counselling. And so we left one. It was kind of like a trophy. Like, she's like, if you need it, it's there, but I think you'll be pretty good. So that was good. But it was really just getting back to self-care. And I've also had a neck injury, so dealing with that, I've had to have a lot of treatment. So I had a lot of osteopathy for a long period of time, obviously a lot of massage. I've got into Qigong or Qigong, depending on how you pronounce it, which is very similar to...
I love Qigong. I love it. So beautiful.
So yes, so similar to Tai Chi for anyone who doesn't know. It's actually the original form that all other martial arts came from, Qigong. So it's the base discipline. And and I've gotten into that. I try and stretch every morning. That's not been so good lately. I still haven't done. I plan to do qigong more regularly since I've been home. That hasn't happened either. But it's the eating well, it's the hydration, and it's the sleep. And if we're not, like, it's one of the conversations I often have with my clients, particularly a new client. I ask them, how are you sleeping? Because if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. So ideally going to bed around that 10 p.m. mark, the first 4 hours of our sleep cycle, so that 10 to 2, our body's actually taking care of its physical self. So checking different organs and filtration and elimination and all that kind of stuff. Then that next 4-hour block from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is actually dealing with our mental load and our emotions and our cognition and how we've perceived the day. And if we go to bed late, like if we go to bed at midnight, our body's does its physical healing first, and then we're not giving it time to do to heal that mental load.
Wow, that's really important information, and I wasn't aware of that myself. So thank you very much. That's really interesting. That's certainly giving me something to think about.
Yeah, and that's part of what's going on at the moment too, because of the pandemic, because of this. One of the problems we have is that we don't have an end date on it. If we all knew that this would all be over with by the 15th of August, you go, right, I can make plans for that, or the 10th of June, or whenever. But there's no end date on it. And that's one of the problems with PTSD, when you feel like it's out of your control, when it can't be put into a box or something. That's part of the issue. Like, you can't define it.
Yeah.
But because of, it's unseen, we don't know where it is and who's got it and how we might get it. There's so many unknowns about it. We're constantly on alert. So we're just dialing up that stress response of, we've got to be aware of everything that's going on. And then we just add more and more things into it. So even being on Zoom and things, if there's a delay, we start to worry there's something wrong with the technology. There can be a lag between me talking to somebody and, you responding and stuff. So then we start to worry. We've got to pay more attention to people's facial expressions, because we don't have those other things that we have when we're together. So everything we're doing is just putting us more and more on alert. The news, the social media feeds, all of that kind of stuff. So being really, really gentle with ourselves, and just trying not to, like, we usually watch the news. We try and just watch the news of a morning. We have watched it more of an evening lately, but Dave probably would watch more news than I will, because I get over it and I'm like, no, let's put on Grand Designs or SBS Food. Nothing bad happens on SBS Food. It's just cooking.
That's right.
And
exactly.
And beautiful locations and ideas.
Well, I don't watch TV, so it works really well for me. I'm not a watcher of TV, and I'm not even a movie person. I will read. I read online or in hard copy, whatever. I just like to research. I'm a bit of a researcher.
Yeah.
But hubby always keeps me updated, and I'll have to say, how many people, what are we at? What do we know? Because I, to be honest, I'm an ostrich. I've really disconnected myself from it, which has probably allowed me to stay really right away from it. And I think they're really important points that you've made. And I think for people to understand that, as you say, go gently on yourself, and recognise this as being that something's not quite right. I think that's really important as well. And being honest about it and admitting it. I'm really grateful that you spoke about it, because I think it's one of those things that we don't speak about enough. And so I'm very grateful that you actually shared your insight, because there could be people out there, if you're out there and you are struggling and you're feeling like the way Lisa has described, I really encourage you to speak to. There's so many people out there that can help you. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to suffer by yourself.
No, and the government have changed like what's available because of the pandemic as well, because Kerry, who I've been doing the marketing work for, she's a psychologist. So I've been, doing things in her business now for a number of months. And even pre-COVID, I've actually started working with Kerry in October last year. And, you can all your telehealth. So before you could only get Medicare, telehealth, counselling, psychology appointments if you lived rurally. They've opened it up for everybody now with the pandemic. Right. So So you don't even have to leave your home. You can just dial in and do it. The research shows that having a counselling session online is at least as effective, if not more effective, because what some people are finding is, say that you were based in Sydney and I'm here in Canberra, the likelihood of you knowing anyone that I've got issues with is less. So, you know, you can feel more open. I'm in the comfort of my house. So if there's something quite difficult for me to talk about, it's easier for me to open up when I'm in my own space. So there's quite a lot of research behind it that telehealth, counselling, psychology appointments are great, because there's been some doubt in the professional and the psychology community whether how effective it is, and the research is showing that it's as effective, if not more effective, and particularly for younger people. So people who are more tech savvy, doing this is, it's second nature to them.
Well, it makes sense to me because I have white coat syndrome. So every time I go to the doctors, my blood pressure goes through the roof. And so for me, that would be perfect, because and we know that because I've actually was diagnosed with, white coat syndrome. So for me, and I can imagine a lot of other people out there, that would take away the anxiety of going into the surgery.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and there's also that privacy thing. Like, people often, if you go to a GP or something locally and you want to go to get your mental health treatment plan or whatever, or the psychologist now, some doctors have their psychologists operating out of the same space. I know that the doctor out here in Bungendore, they do that. And, you might not want to bump into someone, and go, oh, I'm here to see a psychologist. People want to have privacy. Carrie and I were talking yesterday that some people they want to see a psychotherapist or a counsellor as opposed to a psychologist, so it doesn't appear on their medical record, depending on what type of work they do or what type of work they might want to plan to do in the future. So there's lots and lots of options out there, and people really need to find what works for them. Like, I'm quite lucky that I've worked in the health industry now for over 20 years, and I'm very open to alternative forms of healing. So through with my neck injury and fertility and the PTSD and stuff, I've had pretty much every treatment you can possibly think of, from very spiritual based to holistic to scientific. And I use a mix of them, and I know what I need at the time because I'm in tune with me. But for other people, like, try something. Trying something's better than not trying anything at all. And if something isn't right, doesn't resonate, doesn't make you feel better, then you don't need to go back.
No, and what good advice. Thank you so much. That is so important. And I love the fact that you actually said in tune with your own self. I think that's what we have to do. You have to know your body, don't you? You have to know when something's not quite right. And I think spirituality does help kick that off a little bit as well. It lets you be in tune with your body.
It does. And I think women are more in tune with their bodies than men are, mainly because we have to tune in. Like, our cycles make us tune into our bodies, whether we want to or not. And that's just part of it. I think that's one of the gifts of being female and being a woman that men don't have, because they don't have a body clock that goes every month, hi, how are you? And here, pay attention to this, and you've got to deal with this. But it's that lack of self-awareness is a conversation I've had many times with clients over the years. And they'll come in to me and they'll go, oh, well, the physio said, or the doctor said, or the GP said that I've got this. And I'm like, okay, well, and then I start to try and get them to really connect in with what it is, because it's like, well, it's great that they think that, but you live with it 24/7. You're in your body all the time, and you need to have that connection. We, in Western medicine, so many people, and particularly people that are older now, it's probably people that are, I'd say, probably 60 plus, are more likely to hand off their health and well-being to that medical person, because that's how they were raised, and they're less likely to ask questions. And it's an argument I have quite often with my parents, who are in their 80s. Like, they're both very good. They've obviously been at home and self-isolating, but my dad was diagnosed with kidney cancer last year, and he's doing very well. We're very lucky they caught it at stage 1, and all of his specialists are really, really happy with him. But I made time last year to go home so I could meet all of his specialists, because I don't want Dad just to sit there and agree with them. I want them to know that there's someone in the family that's going to make them accountable and have that very team orientated, because that's what I said to Dad, we're building a team of people to help you here. And if we don't like them, they can go and we'll find somebody else, because
I think
that's what we need.
That's so important, isn't it? You don't have to put up with that bad bedside manner anymore. You don't have to.
No. So his kidney and nephrology specialists are great. The cardiologist was a bit of a dick. It's not a good way to describe him. But he worked for somebody else who Dad normally saw, and he was away, and so he was kind of the locum. So we kind of tolerated him. But but yeah, that's the thing. But my parents are that generation where they don't ask questions and they just pass it off. Yeah. So
my body, my choice, I say.
Exactly. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And, I'm very lucky, again, like I pick, I go to doctors and things that are supportive of me, and that's all part of it. That's that, having that knowledge, being grounded in yourself, and having the confidence to actually say, no, that's not going to work for me for whatever reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. It's over an hour already. We could just keep sitting here chatting all afternoon. It's just been absolutely awesome talking to you this morning. I really, really appreciate you sharing so much knowledge and expertise and your own personal experiences. I think that's just really important. And your tips for helping people look after themselves were just totally amazing. So, know your body, get to, as Lisa said, know the people that you're working with. If you're working with professionals, make sure you want to be with those. Don't let them tell you what to do. And be kind to yourself. Go gently. Go gently. That's really important. So thank you very, very much for being here this morning. I'm so grateful. It's just been absolutely a pleasure once again, and I look forward to giving you a big hug when COVID-19 is settled.
I know, that's right. I shared the meme on the Canberra Wise Women page a few weeks back, which is like, everyone better get ready for some weird hugging when this is all over with. And the other thing too is on the Canberra Wise Women, it's posting on both our Instagram and our Facebook pages. I'm actually doing 100 days of love, so I'm up to day 61, I think. So I started at the start of the pandemic to share every day, one thing a day. It's a photograph and just a little comment, and then a little bit more of a blurb under it about something that I love each and every day, and just again to change that energy and to make it positive.
If people want to work with you, Lisa, because as we know, there's many hats, how's the best way for them to connect with you?
Good question.
What we might do is, how about in a couple of months when you've settled in, why don't we get you back and you can go, excuse me, I have tagged Lisa in this, so you can go directly to her Therapy Masters or Canberra Wise Women Facebook page anyway.
Yes.
But if you want to connect, because she does, as she was talking about, she's helping Kerry with her business. So she does, I know that you do business plans. I know that you do help people go through their businesses, given your experience for such a long time. And that's what I was
teaching as well. I was teaching small business planning to them.
Okay.
That's the last lot of things I've been teaching. I've taught technical massage previously at a different institute, but
yeah, or if you want a beautiful massage in the country,
yes,
which is very close to everything. It's only, 5 minutes out of Queanbeyan?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So, connect with Lisa. I know that she'd love to work with you anyway. So, so thank you. Is there anything lastly that you wanted to share?
No, just thank you. You are one of the most generous and caring people that I know. So thank you, darling.
Oh, well, I can't wait to share that over a coffee and a hug.
Yes. And also Sharon does amazing cleansing, like your smudging ceremonies, I also love.
Well, actually, you probably can't see it, but over behind me on the lounge, there's about 5 smudging sticks I made yesterday for a private workshop this week.
So you'll be very proud of me. I've been collecting, these are all fallen, like when we walk of a morning around where we live, I find them and just collect them. So I have a whole little jar.
Oh my God, you're magical here.
Yeah, so I might have to get you to make me a smudging.
Well, what we could do is you could come out and I should show, because I'm going to be getting ready to make a new smudging stick soon.
Ooh.
Not a smudging stick, a feather stick, like so my smudging feathers.
Yes, because I've been very lucky. I've actually even found a black cocky.
That is beautiful. Well, we've had, and I'm praying that it didn't happen, but my grandson and my husband and I have been just finding all these eagle feathers. We have 2 beautiful big eagles up on the back of our property, and we've found a lot of feathers. And my husband keeps saying to me, Sharon, it's fine. They have a lot of feathers. Don't worry. It's okay. And so I'm hoping that that's all that it was, that they've just lost a lot of feathers. But I'm so grateful to have that. So it's like, yes, I'm going to be creating a new smudging feather. So let's talk about that, because I am taking face-to-face now. So we are having, you know, small groups, of course. I'm still not doing my workshops. My retreats are still cancelled. But, yeah, so I'd love to get together and do feathers, because I'm a feather freak. So I love feathers.
Yes, I have quite a collection. My husband, Dave, keeps on looking at me. He goes, what are you doing? I'm like, collecting a feather. Like, it's blue and it's pretty, or it's green, or it's yellow. It's coming home.
There's some magnificent feathers in there. There really is. They are beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's some new ones that I can show you how to make. I can't wait to make one. So it all comes from products straight off the ground, which is excellent. Well, thank you so very, very much. It has just been magical talking with you. And thank you all for joining us. And if you're watching the replay, let us know that you've been watching the replay, because it has been magical talking to Lisa. She just is the most beautiful soul. I'm so grateful to have had her in my life and have her in my life still. And I look forward to chatting back with you in a few months to see where you are and where things have changed.
Yes, very good. I look forward to it too, darling. Thank you. And at least this will be tidier.
Oh, I think you're just judging yourself way too much. You know, I wasn't even looking at there, to be honest. I was watching you.
It's more that it feels like my brain's exploded and gone, I need to file it and tidy it and calm it down.
So huge hugs, everybody. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Love to everyone. Bye. Bye.
Big hugs. Bye for now.